Je suis the book bitch. Okay, yeah, I'm not going to attempt at French until I'm better at French on here, but yeah. Anyway, here's the first movie review on the Book Bitch vlogs. I decided to watch all the movies I own, which is a lot, adjusted to account for all the TV series I own. I have something like 300 or 431 DVDs. I mean, some of those are bonus discs and whatever, but a lot of them are not. Um, so I've decided I'm going to do this whenever the flying fuck I feel like it. I'm taking a random number generator and just kind of picking between, 1 and, let's see here, what's the actual final number I've got? Between 1 and 533, which, of course, includes, I think, 3 series of Star Trek and almost the entirety of CSI, the original series. But anyway, today the random number generator, in its wisdom and its wonderful trollness, decided to pick Quills, which is a movie about the Marquis de Sade. It's a movie about decidedly French things in a time when literally the last thing I want is to deal with any more fucking French shit. Francophile that I am. But anyway, I decided to watch it because I had like random number generated something like 4 or 5 times prior to that. And landing on Quills was the first movie I was actually interested in watching. Like, the only other thing that was actually interesting that it had landed on was, I believe, something from the middle of season 5 of Deep Space Nine. And I'm not about to watch an entire 4-episode disc of Star Wars or Star Trek, so no. That one wasn't going to happen today. So I watched Quills, which I've honestly only ever seen, I want to say, twice before. Once when I was very young, and I had caught my mom watching it in the living room, which is how I actually saw a lot of movies that I've seen prior to now. Back when my mom was still alive, she would watch a lot of movies. She was a major cinephile, and she owned easily double the DVDs I have right now. But I would go out into the living room and she would be watching a movie. Usually it would be some kind of action movie, but every once in a while it would be something weird, like Quills, which, honestly, I've got to say, although it's not one of my favorites, it's easily one of those ones that I will go to again and again if I'm, like, asked to pick a movie that I have to rewatch over and over. Because, honestly, despite its controversial subject matter, it's really honestly not that bad. Like, it's not that great of a movie. Like, I will be the first to admit it's got its issues. It's definitely got issues. But it's not bad. Like, it could be so much gorier than it is, and it could be so much more depraved than it is given the subject matter. The fairly light use of blood and the wonderful use of scat later in the frickin' movie is kind of beautiful. As is just the imagery of everything to do with Madeline and Joaquin Phoenix's character, the Abbe, or whatever the flying fuck he is. Like, everything towards the end between those two, I don't want to spoil anything, but that entire scene, that there's precious little in cinema today that will actually get me gagging. I'm a child of 4chan, the early years. So you're hard pressed to actually find something that's going to squick me out. The Merciless came the closest to actually grossing me the fuck out in recent times. That book that I reviewed by Daniel Vega. That in one scene had someone rip a toenail off of someone else or something, and that was disgusting. That got to me. But beyond that, it's really hard to gross me out. This movie comes close in a couple of scenes, but beyond those couple of scenes, it's a fairly tame movie, given the subject matter, which, considering the Marquis de Sade and what he wrote about, yeah, this movie could be so much more disgusting than it honest to God is. Um, yeah, I suppose I can get into what I liked and what I didn't like about this movie. Eventually these reviews might actually have like clips and shit, but for now I'm just gonna kind of podcast this, you know, podcast this. Me just kind of rambling at a microphone, and then you get to look at my pretty face. um, yeah, basically, I'm not hugely fond of the format because it doesn't give you even half a second to breathe. It like there's something constantly happening, and like in certain movies that works, and in this movie I guess it works because like it holds your attention, and I'm sure if you were given a break you might kind of wonder why the fuck you're watching a movie about the Marquis de Sade. But there's kind of constant shit going on. Like there's not really anything in the way of establishing shots. There's it's very dialogue heavy, it's very story heavy. There's not much as far as scenery, which I suppose makes sense since it kind of takes place in the middle of a sanitarium or whatever. But there's not a whole lot of establishing shots, and that kind of bothers me because I'm I'm not huge on movies to begin with. I've never been really big on watching television or watching movies. I've always been bigger on books or writing my own stories. But in certain like certain movies, like particularly this, I feel like it could have benefited from even a couple seconds of breather in a couple of spots rather than, just kind of backing up and showing us, oh, it's Joaquin Phoenix and he's praying over the dead body of this random chick in this sort of church thing. Like they have this really really stunning like place to film, and they have this like chateau or whatever that they also are filming at or whatever that's just so freaking pretty, and they show you way more of like close-ups of Geoffrey Rush's ass. Geoffrey Rush's naked ass makes more of an appearance than the actual pretty scenery in this movie, which I suppose some people probably like. I wasn't a fan, but I suppose if that's what you like, then you probably won't be disappointed in this, at least. Yeah. I don't have a whole lot to say about this one. Um, I don't really know where I'm going with any of these yet, but I like the ending. I like the almost like it's almost ironic the ending. I like what ends up happening to Joaquin Phoenix's character. I like that with Joaquin Phoenix, you kind of always get Joaquin Phoenix, and he's always on. Like every movie I've seen the man in, he delivers a really damn fucking amazing performance, And that's I don't understand because there's a lot of people like I've heard a lot of people bash him and say that like he's not that great of a actor or that he hams it up or whatever. And maybe in the stuff that I haven't seen him in, maybe he's not as good as in the stuff I've seen him in, but I mean, if he could be watchable in Signs, you got to kind of admit that he's a decent actor. But I mean, especially in this one, I think that he's pretty fucking great. Like he's got a couple of scenes where You can tell he's really questioning his faith, and he's really questioning himself, and whether or not he can perform his job to the level that he needs to. And it's just the emotions that he can convey with just like a quiver of his lips is fucking amazing. Like, I wish I had half that talent. Um, Beyond that, Geoffrey Rush is amazing, as he always is, because it's Geoffrey fucking Rush. Um, yeah, I ended up actually having to start a notebook for this, which I'm just calling it the Great Movie Watch. I will probably not be calling that on the channel, but I don't really care. But the Great Movie Watch. And I had to make a notebook for notes because I needed to write down and remember, because, I can't just force it out of my mind. I need to remember that I've now seen far more of Geoffrey Rush's ass and the back of his ball sack than I ever, ever have wanted to see of any person's ass or ball sack. And that, yeah, that it's going to be a great notebook when that is the first note in the fucking notebook. Other interesting notes that I took. Naked Geoffrey Rush is kind of gross, but I mean, old man body. I thoroughly enjoy Joaquin Phoenix and everything I see him in. A lot of the themes of this movie feel oddly, like, fuck, I lost the word and I don't have the word written here. It timely, oddly timely, like oddly, the way they're stifling the Marquis de Sade in this movie, like, and I'm sure historically, I've to be honest, I have not done any research. I'm a Francophile, but I don't really do that research. No, I'm kidding. I'm really not that much of a Francophile, but I don't put that much effort into my stuff. I haven't done any real research, so I'm assuming parts of this are historically accurate. But just the censorship and the way they're censoring him and how they're calling him offensive and how they're, trying to silence him. It it feels oddly timely, oddly relevant to today's shit, It feels oddly relevant to, like, the YouTube skeptic community and what I've seen in the videos I've been watching from various people. And from the Twitter wars I've seen between various people and the opposition, and how certain sides are constantly trying to silence the other side because their opinion mismatches from the other opinion, and we can't have multiple conflicting opinions. That would be wrong. We can't be offensive, guys. That would be wrong. You don't want to be offensive. You don't want to fucking offend anybody. That would be wrong. That would be so wrong. Wouldn't you just feel so bad if you offended somebody? I know I'd feel fucking terrible if I offended somebody. I'd feel so bad. I would probably just, never make a video again. But, yeah, I don't have much else to say, really. The climax of this movie gets me every time. When they're trying to finally pass on what will be his quote unquote last great story or whatever, and the one inmate manages to break through the wall and kind of completely fuck shit up and kill the one woman. That shit, it gets me every time. That's the part that I actually originally first saw of this movie. Um, when I was younger. I don't know when this movie came out, actually. I'm not entirely positive. Does it say on the DVD? Probably not. And I'm not going to actually Google because I don't give enough of a fuck. And it does not say on the DVD, of course. But I'm assuming 90s, late 90s at very, very latest. But I was young when I first saw it. I want to say I couldn't have possibly been more than 9 or 10 years old when I first saw this part of the movie. And I remember my mom, because my mom, like, you guys, my mom was probably the coolest mom anybody could have ever asked for. I was that kid who, at age 4, was allowed to watch the Terminator movies. I was that kid that movies didn't have an age rating or, a parental guidance or whatever system or whatever. We didn't really follow the MPAA or any of that in my household. It was more based on what my mom thought I could handle. And so, at like age 4, I could obviously totally handle the Terminator and explosions and that really neat CGI bullshit for the T-1000 or whatever. Note, it has been years since I've last seen T2, but that is the first R-rated movie I can remember watching, and I was about 4 years old when I was watching that movie, so. But, I mean, Quills. Heavily, heavily steeped in sexual. It's just heavily steeped in sex. Very pornographic language. The entire subject matter is just very adult. Not the kind of stuff that you would normally let a child watch. And out I came from my room playing Barbies. I probably wanted to ask my mom if I could play with, like, one of her Barbies, because she had special dolls that she didn't let me play with all the time. And I got sidetracked by the movie because there was, a crazy person running back and forth between one wall and another wall, carrying a story back and forth, and I got distracted. And then all of a sudden there was a massive amount of blood and shit, and I was like, what the fuck? And it very much, I remember just kind of sitting down and going, what the fuck? Except for, I was like 9, so it was, Mom, what are you watching? And I remember my mom sitting there trying to figure out how she was going to talk to me about this. And I remember her kind of looking at me, and looking at the TV, and looking at me, and looking at the TV, and finally turning the television off, and turning to me, and asking if I thought I was old enough to try to talk about that kind of stuff. And I just I remember asking her if it was a similar subject matter to some stupid ass joke book I had when I was little. Like, at age 6 or 7, I bought a dirty joke book for kids. Like, it was literally like marketed as dirty joke books for jokesters, and it was marketed at kids like 10 to 15. And it ended up getting taken away from me because there was a joke about masturbation. It was actually it was a fairly, like, I still don't really understand how it's even a funny joke. Like, now, looking back at it, because I eventually did get the joke book back when I was like 12 or 13, but at the time when I told my mom that particular joke from the book, I didn't understand what the fuck I was saying, and she knew that, so she took it away. But the joke was, why does Helen Keller only use one hand to masturbate with? She uses the other hand to moan with. I still don't really find that funny. It's not even like an offensive joke. Like, I'm sure some people find it offensive, but like, I just find it unfunny. Like, it's one of those where it's obviously trying too hard, and I'm going off on a tangent. I'm just gonna kind of shut up on that. But I remember I asked my mom if it was a situation like that where, she just thought I was a little too young to understand it, because I didn't really get what the fuck I was watching. All I knew was some bitch had just gotten murdered. and like they were repeating that, someone was ripping out someone else's tongue. That's all I understood from it. And she basically just told me that, yeah, I probably was a little too young, and I just went and played with my Barbies some more. But that was my first experience with this movie, and I've got to say, now watching it as a 28-year-old, I wasn't probably ready to be watching that at age 9. But, I mean, there's so many other movies I probably wasn't ready to be watching at, like, age 4, age 5, age 6, that really, my mom's questionable taste of things that, you don't turn the TV off when when your fucking minor daughter walks out into the living room and sees you watching, just her scale of shit that you allow your child to see was so skewed, and I love her for it. I kind of wish she was still around because, like, for these kind of things, I'm sure it would be interesting to hear her take on movies that I've liked, movies that she bought that I've got in my collection now. Um, I would love to have her when I finally talk about The Core. That's going to be a long ass episode, but for this one, really, I would definitely recommend watching this if you've got the time and you can find a copy. Um, Half Price Books usually seems to have spare copies of this. Um, yeah. If you're a Geoffrey Rush fan, I don't understand how you haven't seen this one. He delivers quite a good performance in this one. Everyone does, though, really. Um, Even the minor characters deliver. It's kind of great. If you're if you've got like a weak sensibility, if you're not big on sex or mentions of pornography, if you're, really big on wholesome family entertainment and, your family isn't my family, probably steer clear of this one. But if you're watching the Book Bitch vlogs, I'm doubting that you're any bit wholesome, honestly. So you're probably going to enjoy this movie if you enjoy historical shit. If you really like period pieces, you're probably going to like this one. If you like biographical or biopics or however the flying dick you pronounce that shit, you probably will like this one. I don't know how truthful any of it is. Like I said, I'm not one to do any research. I'm seriously just here to watch movies and talk about it at this point. Yeah, that's really it. If you've got a suggestion for a movie I should do in the future, you should totally leave a comment. If I don't have it in my current collection, I can definitely look for it because I do buy DVDs and Blu-rays at Half Price Books quite a lot. I'm not going to do any real in-depth reviews. Most of it's going to be just me talking about the movie and then talking about random shit that the movie makes me think of, like this. So if you liked this, yay. If not, I guess I'll try harder next time. Um, Go ahead and throw a thumbs up if you liked this shit. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you as soon as I decide I want to watch another fucking movie and then talk about it for like a half hour. Okay, bye.